Hi friends, Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who likes to make the law make sense on YouTube. Here's what we're discussing today. Maybe you're like me. Maybe you're one of those people who looks around at the world sometimes on some days and thinks, how in the world have we survived as the human race with all these people who do dumb things? Now, I'd be lying to you if I told you that I don't occasionally do dumb things. Everybody does dumb things. Usually when I do dumb things, I learn my lesson and don't repeat the same mistake. But unfortunately, a lot of people do, and that's kind of the point of it. It's not a bad thing to make a mistake and learn from it, but it is a bad thing to keep repeating that same mistake. I say all that because one of the dumbest things I have seen on YouTube is a story that came out of Port Lucie, Florida today. And it involves a tow truck and a tow truck operator who was new at the job and who apparently did not understand the rules with regard to repossession. And it involves a homeowner who was probably not new at the job, but who hadn't paid his bills, and his car was about to be repossessed. Now, both of these people had a poor understanding of the law. In the Uniform Commercial Code, it allows what's called self-help repossession. There are two ways to repossess a car. One way to repossess a car is to go to the court and get a writ of replevin. You serve the person whose vehicle you wish to repossess with a lawsuit that says, I want to repossess your vehicle, and I want you to pay what you owe on the note. Usually they do both at the same time. They serve the notice, they hold a preliminary hearing where the judge issues a writ of replevin, and then the sheriff goes out with the tow truck operator and they remove the vehicle, because even some real dummies are not going to be stupid enough to take on a sheriff's department over a repossession. But the other way that you can repossess a vehicle is through what's called self-help repossession, meaning that you go and you pick up the car. Now, one of the things that repossession people do quite frequently is they go to the car dealer with the VIN number of the vehicle that they are going to repossess, and they show the repossession order, and they get a key made, and they go and they use that key to jump in the car and drive it off. And then when they get 3 or 4 blocks down the road, they jump out of the car, they pull their tow truck up, put it up on the ramp or on the little hook, whatever it is, and off they go. That's a very effective way to repossess a car. Unfortunately, it's not always the best way, because many times they won't be able to get a key, or the key might have been changed. You just never know. So most of the time, rather than go to all of that trouble, what people wind up doing, or what repossession agents wind up doing, is backing up underneath the car, they have a little thing that it's like a little fork that goes up underneath. They lift the front part of the car up, and then after lifting that front part of the car up, they secure the wheels and they drive away, and they drive about 4 blocks down the road, and they secure the wheels more carefully, and then they take it into the lot, and it's now repossessed. But the minute that they get that hook on it and a chain around the tires, that car is no longer in the possession of the person who originally purchased it. It is in their possession, and if you attempt to retake the vehicle, then you are essentially converting property, and in some respects and in some states, you'd be committing the crime of grand theft auto. So you don't ever want to challenge repossession at the roadside. Where you want to challenge repossessions in court. That's a long way of saying that this was a tragic event fueled by ignorance on both sides. The rookie tow truck driver pulled up in the middle of the day, put the thing underneath the car, was in the process of pulling it up and hooking it onto the tow truck when the guy came out and punched him. So the tow truck driver went to the cab of the pickup truck, having been punched, and it's reasonable to assume that he was going to get something to protect himself with, but I don't think there was any evidence of that, that there was, that he didn't go to pick up a weapon, but the homeowner, car's original possessor, he had a pistol and he shot the tow truck driver. The tow truck driver is going to be okay, but the guy whose car was repossessed is going to jail, and he's probably going to jail for attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, and anything else that the state can charge him with, because you cannot use a firearm to protect property. If you have a series of bad kids in your neighborhood and they use a brick to break the window of your car, jump in it, hotwire it, and they pull out, you can't run out with your shotgun and shoot them. You just can't. It's against the law. You can't use a firearm to protect property. You can only use it to protect human life. And for whatever reason, there are just a group of people who do not understand that. And in this case, Florida man was one of them. He didn't understand you couldn't use the firearm to protect property. And as a result, he's going to jail. Now, apparently this is a guy who just couldn't reason from, A to B to C to D, because if he'd thought about it, he would have realized shooting the guy was going to get him in trouble. Getting in trouble means going to jail. Going to jail means losing your job. And losing your job means there's no way you're ever going to be able to pay for that car, and you can kiss it goodbye. So this is one of those stories where I think that just a little bit of legal knowledge among people, I think maybe they ought to hand out a book. When people finance a vehicle, I think they ought to hand out a little booklet that says, here's what's going to happen if you don't make payments. We're going to back a tow truck up. We're going to get your car. And if you take any violent action against it, you are going to jail. Unfortunately, they don't do that. So that's the number one dumbest thing that I saw on YouTube this week. The second dumbest thing that I saw on YouTube this week is from Brendan Kavanagh's channel. Brendan Kavanagh, you may know, is a piano player. He likes to hold little mini concerts in a mall in England. He has a lovely English accent and just generally appears to be a pretty great guy. Well, a couple of people from People's Republic of China showed up and were listening to him play, and so they were being recorded on his YouTube channel, and they didn't like that, and they got the authorities to force him not only to stop recording, but they forced him to take it down off of YouTube because they didn't want the government of China to see it. As you may be aware, there are a lot of different rules in different countries, and YouTube being available all across the world is one of those things where if the government of the United Kingdom decides that that's a violation of their privacy laws, well, then unfortunately, they're going to order you to take it down. So I thought that was especially dumb. You can find all of this on his channel. There are more recent videos that talk about it. But this video right here, where he talks about what happened and how it is now a China-free zone in his area where he performs, it's a China-free piano zone. I think it's a good way of dealing with something that is odious, which is censorship. I believe in the First Amendment here in the United States, and I'm glad we have it, because the remedy for bad speech is more speech. It's not less speech. Shutting off people's right to dissent and to say things is inherently wrong. Even if they say something bad and ugly and awful, it is better to have them have the right to do that than it is to so slowly and eventually chip away at all of our rights to express discontent with, among other things, our government. So if you have an opportunity, check out that channel and give a like on that video, because I think Brendan probably deserves it. It's not right, and I don't think you should ever have your videos taken down because somebody from a foreign country objects to their appearance on YouTube when they're out in public. In the United States, if you're out in public, you don't have any expectation of privacy. I can film you, anybody can film you out in public. So, for what it's worth, it's a dumb thing that they did, but at any rate, hopefully it will end up well for him. Now, the third dumb thing, which is, I think, the best of the bunch, is from a channel called the Pinal County Sheriff's Fridays with Frank. And Frank is a deputy, and on Fridays he goes out on patrol and he does traffic stops, and some of those traffic stops are frankly hilarious. Now, this is number 90, and I'm going to play just a little snippet of it here so you can get an appreciation of how deftly this deputy handles things. Now, what's interesting is that I think in most instances, if people are willing to work with him, he doesn't always ticket them. I think he's a really good guy, and I think he really has safety and the public's well-being at his heart. But watch this little snippet and see if you come out to the same conclusion that I do.
Why are you parked blocking?
That's my bad. I was going to park right there.
Or there's the right curb where you could have stopped for like a quarter mile back there with a nice flat dirt curb, right?
Yeah.
But we didn't do that. But instead we're facing westbound traffic in eastbound traffic, right? So none of this is good, right? And you're not wearing your seatbelt, which you probably also need to do. So, because now this car is going to hit you head on, right? Because this is literally, I can't even sugarcoat this. This is the dumbest thing that I've seen in a long time and incredibly dangerous. Okay, so, and by the way, I stopped you for criminal speed, so you're also under arrest.
Well, here's my conclusion at the end of that. This guy is not real bright, and you don't ever pull off facing traffic coming the other way to get a ticket. It's just not a very bright thing to do. So those are the three dumb things I saw. But now I want to share with you one of the channels that I really like on this platform, called Habitual Line Crosser. And I should preface this by saying that probably one of the most fundamental experiences in my life was being in the Army. It is not an overstatement to say that being in the Army made a man out of me, because it made failure not an option. It is amazing how motivating the idea that if you don't do what you're supposed to do, you go to jail is in terms of motivating you to do what you are supposed to do. And initially in basic training, I was a little bit of a screw-up, but eventually I came around. I won 2 Army Commendation Medals, so I couldn't have been too bad. The long and short of it is that one of the things that happens to you in the Army is you learn the Army vocabulary. And it starts out with a 4-letter word that begins with the letter F, and you learn every possible permutation of that. You learn it as a noun, you learn it as a verb, you learn it as an adjective, as an adverb. I'm sure that in many ways it's even a participle or whatever element of speech we're supposed to consider. The Army vocabulary is not for polite company. But then again, when your business is to travel to strange and distant lands, meet strange and exotic people, and then kill them, language is probably not your big concern. When I got home from the Army after my 6 years in the military, I went home and I was telling a story to my family about one of the things that had happened, and I used the exact language that had been used at the time of that story. And when I finished, my Aunt Naomi's mouth was hanging open. And she said, "Do you know how many times you used that word?" And I stopped and thought for a minute, and I said, "Oh, yeah, I guess that was quite a few." She said, "Yeah, it was. You need to stop that." And I realized that one of the problems coming out of the Army is that not always are you accepted in polite company if you continue to act like you're in the Army. So while it did a lot of good for me, I did have to clean up my language afterwards. And I always try to do that here. So on some of these videos on this channel, I don't want you to think I am endorsing the use of language, because I don't. I think there are plenty of ways to be funny without using that particular word, and as a result, I don't use it. But I don't judge anybody else, particularly somebody who's still in the Army, for doing that. And Habitual Line Crosser is still in the Army. His videos are funny, they're topical, they involve things like the Ukraine war, and they are designed to be funny. I mean, that's all he does is a little bit of humor. If you have the opportunity, check out his channel. I think you will really enjoy his latest video where he talks about, among other things, Russia deciding that maybe they might want Alaska back. I think that was pretty funny. Thanks so much for watching. If you have the opportunity today, go out and do something nice for somebody. Today, my something nice for somebody is turning you on to Habitual Line Crosser if you haven't found him already. And of course, if you have, let people know what you think in the comments. And of course, you can always email me at the address above. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for supporting the channel. You all mean a lot to me. And catch me down here at the beach again next time.
If you like this video, here are a few others you might try, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a terrific day, guys.